Hi, I am, obviously you already know who I am. I don't have kids in public school. I pulled my daughter out when she was in the 2nd grade because I realized that they don't teach mathematics. They don't teach practice and repetition, and that's the only way you learn math, and I know because I have a master's degree in mathematics. I had multiple fights with the teachers over the way they taught and pulled them out. So imagine my surprise in 2020 when Governor Murphy decided to reach into my private school and mask my children. I was completely aggravated and outraged that he shut down my schools, especially since being a medical biostatistician, I knew that kids were at no risk of death or long-term effects from COVID-19. So I was pretty frustrated at that point. So this is why I, with a bunch of other parents, created the New Jersey Project, where we basically focus on education, but we do focus on some of these other things up here as well. I have a radio show, I have a Substack, we have all the social medias, because I believe that we can change things if everybody is informed. And you can go to the next slide. So, I have a list here of what we do, and I have this message from Breitbart up there that says that politics is downstream from culture. And that's what we need to do, is change the culture. Now, that's already been changed, and they've been doing this through the education system, and it's time that we change it back using the education system. You could go to, and then also I have on there Save the Babies, which actually will all come forward by the end of this. You can go to the next slide. So right now in education in public schools, they're popping out in colleges Marxists who teach your children. That's the new set of people who are educators. The Library Association, the American Library Association, is run by a self-described Marxist lesbian. They are the ones who want to put these books in your schools. And it is the higher-ups, it's the new people popping out of these universities through these Marxist ideas. And they want to do the pedagogy of the oppressed. This is actually a real pedagogy. And if you go to the Radical Pedagogy Institute online, you will find all of these descriptions on there now. And these people went to the NJEA to give classes. These people give Marxist ideas to your teachers to teach your children. Now, older teachers aren't going to listen to any of this. I actually brought this up to an old teacher, and she heard of these things, and she thought that, well, my goodness, I can't believe that they're doing this. This was just a theory. This isn't really what they actually teach. And I'm like, yes. So what they do is they introduced some problem to your child, a negative idea, something that would enrage them, would upset them, some social justice idea. And then what they do is they ask you, are you being oppressed? And they bring stuff from their life to make them think that they're oppressed, that they need to fight this particular topic. And then they tell the kids they need to liberate themselves from this oppression. And then they come up with a solution with, of course, guided by the teacher, because, you know, 2nd graders cannot come up with a solution. And then they take action and you start a liberation and they join your cause. And then they come right back, then they introduce a new negative idea and they start the cycle all over again. So this you can see in Cherry Hill schools where they had 2nd graders out protesting racism. Why are 2nd graders standing with protest signs, protesting something that does not happen in Cherry Hill? Okay? Everybody's living together fine, but all this does is divide children from other children. Talking about your white privilege, talking about how you're the oppressor and they're the oppressed. They have this dichotomy, oppressed, oppressor matrix. You see this with the conflict in Israel right now, and it doesn't matter. If you are successful, if you're doing well, you're the oppressor. You can go to the next slide. And they have these social justice topics in this wheel of ridiculousness up here. You have your dominant group, which is your successful, and you know they basically consider you white, a male, you're European, you're educated. You don't have any medical problems, you speak English, and you're young. And then on the oppressed wheel we have on the outside are the people who are the oppressed by the people inside the wheel, which are people of any sort of color. Now they've increased that, they've increased the color wheel to include people who are actually technically white, but now they consider them people of color. And they and it includes your sexuality, if you're old, if you're disabled. So that's why, they praise the people who are oppressed. So if you are, a one-eyed midget who is non-binary and a person of color, then you're more preferred than maybe somebody who isn't. You can go to the next slide. So what happens with this social justice ideas that they promote in school? What happens is that you can't have debate clubs, right? Do you know there's no more debate clubs in the schools? They're not having those. They have divisive clubs, like they have clubs for all different races in the school. They have clubs for the LGBT. They don't have community, like you're not working towards a garden club. You're not doing a club that's working towards an activity. You're working towards your oppressed ideas, and that's why these clubs exist. Now, these are the things that happen in the schools. There was an abortion protest at 100 and Central in Flemington, New Jersey, and a girl came out with a Right to Life poster, and she was attacked by her fellow students. Do you think this was a good idea to have teenage children have protests? And this is what's going on in the school. And it actually was a pretty bad riot, and the father's suing the school right now. In Cherry Hill, they're having terrible racial fights right now. Like within the school, the kids are just pounding on each other. I see it on TikTok all the time. I actually review that. And, there's anti-Semitism in Teaneck, and we also have this inappropriate sexually explicit conduct between teachers and students, because the teachers are allowed to engage your children. Do you know how many surveys came out this year that engaged the children to ask them about their sexuality and their gender identity, starting in middle school, sometimes the 5th grade? Can you imagine that in one of the schools in North Hanover, they had the children between 4th and 6th grade make posters of a safe space where they had words on there like pansexual, polysexual, to discuss all the different types of sexual you could be? Do you think that these conversations between teachers and parents could happen? What do you think happens when you're constantly engaging children about their sexuality and one-on-one? They can engage your child one-on-one about their sexuality, about their gender identity, and you don't know anything about it, from a survey that they gave to your child in school. You might want to look through your class dojo, by the way, to see what types of things your kids are learning, because that's how you really find out. You have to pressure a kid, ask them questions, and look through every material that comes through the school, because if you get the wrong teacher, that's the type of stuff you're going to get in your classroom. Now, a lot of people go, this isn't happening in my school, and it probably isn't, because there's a line of people there to protect you from this nonsense. You have the superintendent, and my superintendent in the school, they're not having it. Do you know that they get to teach your children right now, according to the New Jersey state standards, they get to teach masturbation in 3rd to 5th grade? That is part of that is part of your curriculum, but it's not happening in your school. You know why? Your superintendent doesn't do it. They send a packet home to the parents. The principals tells the teacher, you better not do it. The teacher goes, oh, I lost it. It never showed. I don't know where it went. We forgot to do it. We didn't have enough time. So you have a line of people protecting your kids, but one day there's going to be a kink in that line, and your kid is going to get the inappropriate sexual content that is mandated by the state to be in your school curriculum. Next slide. So all these ideas are supported by all the institutions, and you have every college teaches this stuff. The NJEA is all over it. It's like they're paid to do this. The school board associations, the administration association, the National Association of Principals, and the American Library Association. All of these institutions push these ideas on your kids through the public school system. And by the way, I pulled my children out of school for this nonsense, and guess what happened? My son goes to a very nice private school in Atlantic County. You probably know what it is, but I won't message it. Now they have a DEI officer pushing these types of ideas. So next slide. So the idea is that you're not safe in public school. You're not safe in private school. You're not safe in New Jersey. And that's why I sent my daughter to college in Florida, because I can't deal with this anymore. The anxiety that I have, do you know what happened with the riots at Rutgers, Columbia, with the kids weren't able to get to class? I have friends who were hysterical trying to get to their college student. I called up my daughter, oh my God, what's going on at your university? She goes, I just finished my final, we're going to the beach. No, it's not happening in Florida. And they start indoctrinating your children into these ideas, and they start hearing them in kindergarten. They start hearing how sometimes you feel like a boy and how you feel like a girl, and this right here is the state standard. The state standard is discuss the range of ways people express their gender and how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior. You're talking about kindergarten to second grade. May limit behavior. How you behave depends on your gender identity. What does that mean? Why would you ask a child this? Why are they putting these stereotypes into children's idea? One stereotype that I can't stand, that doesn't happen in my house, is that girls are good at English and boys are good at math. Because if you told one of my child like this, they're like, my mom can't help me with my English homework. My dad certainly can't help me with any of the math homework. So I don't want those things being put into my children's heads because that doesn't exist in my home. Next slide. By third to fifth grade, gender ideology continues with these are the state standards. Describe gender role stereotypes again and their potential to impact on self and others. So they continue to tell your children this every year to get this into their head. In addition, you're letting your kids on social media. They're looking at TikTok. They're looking at Instagram. All those ideas are pushed on there too, especially the TikTok algorithms that keep on showing it to you until you hit on it. I knew a girl in private school, her parents never let her on the internet. They let her on when she was 16 and she came over to my house and started talking full Marxist. And I knew exactly where she got that because you got to talk to your kids about what they see online. And then in third grade, you have to demonstrate ways to promote dignity and respect for all people. Sexual orientation, gender identity, expression, race, ethnicity, economic status, differing ability, immigration status, and family configuration. The wheel of nonsense that you saw before, right? These are things that they continually say and push all the time. And they can put this in any class. They can say this at any time they want to your kids. And it might not even be part of the curriculum. The teacher can just tell your children this. And they continually tell them every year until they believe it. Not only do they have to, learn about these things, they have to accept them and make posters to promote them. Next slide. By 12th grade, you have to develop a plan to promote dignity again and respect for people of all genders, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation in the community. So now we have to discuss sexual orientation as part of the curriculum, the New Jersey curriculum. These are the state standards, and this is what your school has in their curriculum. Now again, it may not got to you because there's a whole bunch of line of people who are there to stop this from coming to your kids. Next slide. So gender ideology in 57-56. Kara White was here explaining this, and these are the things about 57-56. I put the details in. I have worked with schools, and my organization has worked with schools all over New Jersey, and we've gotten 25 schools to repeal 57-56. And that list is available upon request because the ACLU sent them all a nastygram saying that they needed to put that back in. So we don't want that to happen. And then also there's schools around here that never even wrote it. They never even, they have schools in, around here that are like 78 kids, and they never got around to fixing their thing. So there's way more schools that don't have it than do. Then just got rid of it. There's more schools that have it, believe me. They allow the children at any age to change their name and pronouns in the official school documents. So it's written in their official school record and you don't know about it. It is recorded officially. Sex education classes are based on gender preference. Your daughter can be in with the boys learning about erections that she'll never get. Your boy will be learning about a period that he'll never have. This is what they do, and you don't have any, they do not learn about their own body. They don't learn the reality of science. They learn this made-up stuff, and that they can actually someday have these things, and that's not true. There's no actual way to change your gender. You're stuck with it the way you were born. They allow your child to use the bathroom of preference. There's a lawsuit now about a girl who was using the boys' bathroom because she identified as a boy, and she was beat up, eventually committed suicide. Requires team sports clubs or activists to accept students based on identifying gender. This is where you'll see boys playing on your girls' sports teams. Create 2 separate records, one for the parent. We revealed this 2 years ago. in one of the counties, and we put it out on our newsletter, Chaos in Control, where we do these things. It's chaosincontrol.substack.com. And they will have a record that you will see from the parent side, and the teachers and the school staff will see for the other. So you'll never have any idea that this is happening. There's multiple lawsuits going on about this right now in the state of New Jersey. And do you think it's a good idea for the teacher to know this much about your child and you don't know, and they're hiding secrets from you? What type of appropriate relationship does your teacher have with your child that they're discussing these things? I talked to my daughter. My daughter said, I would just die if they asked me about my sexuality. I wouldn't want to talk about that with my teachers. But yet when they continually engage your kids, that's what's going to happen. You could go to the next slide. So, the parental notification is under fire. The AG says it's LAD or whatever, and But the problem is that transitioning your child is medical care. This is the way I look at it. Gender dysphoria is a medical condition where the child doesn't identify with the body parts that they were given. So this is a type of dysphoria where they don't agree, and people have like anorexia. We have all kinds of mental problems where people don't see their body the way it should be. But we're not, given the, anorexic kid diuretics so that they can continue to be thin. We give them psychoanalyze, we give them treatment so they can learn to accept the body that they were given. And, when they're doing this in school and they tell your child that they need to, they can be who they want to be, they're putting them through a social transition process. When you do the psychological process of changing your gender, the first thing you do is socially transition. And then the next thing you do is medically transition. So they're prepping your kids to medically transition without your knowledge or your consent. And this is what's going on in the schools right now. I actually personally know a child from Jersey City that my daughter grew up with. He's in college, right? She's in college right now, apparently. He was an adorable little boy, but his teachers decided that he was a girl in the 3rd grade. So they would bring clothes in for him to dress into, and he would put him with the girls. Really messed up that kid. He was a friend of my daughter's. And let me tell you, when your kid is that messed up, and when my daughter went to private school, they met down the shore, they were friends. Now my daughter has to manage his problems because now my kid is involved. Don't think that your kid's going to have to interact with these children who the school messes up, even if you're in private school. And I've had that experience already. And I had to explain to her that, this boy, he's having a lot of issues. You're just going to have to, it's not that he doesn't like you. It does not that, I'm explaining this to my 5th grader. It's not that he doesn't like you. It's not that you can't be friends. He's not angry at you for any particular reasons. He just has a lot of problems. And you just have to understand it's not about you. And it's a shame that you have to explain this to your kids. Next slide. So I already went over this, what gender-affirming care is. It's a medical thing. Your school shouldn't be making... Your teacher. Do you know how many teachers just diagnose kids with ADHD? They tell you what medical problems that they have. I had that too. I have 2 very spirited, very difficult children. They got ADHD. They just need to be told what to do over and over and over again until they do it. They're just very challenging children. They want to get your kids on drugs. They want to make it easier for them to deal with in school. So they will do anything they can to quiet your kid down, to make them feel comfortable, change their gender, get them on ADHD meds, get them on some anxiety medication, which I've had with my kids too. Oh, you know what? Maybe they have anxiety. They don't have anxiety. They have the right amount of anxiety. If you don't do well on test, you should be anxious. I'm sorry. I don't medicate for that. Next slide. So, I'm going to go over this, but apparently we have rights. I mean, Karen White would be the one to really talk about this, not me. But I was told that the 5th, 9th, and 14th Amendment means that you have the right to direct your child's education, their medical care, and their upbringing. It's not up to the school to make these decisions. And the problem is we're not exercising our rights. We're not giving the school pushback. We're not giving the teachers pushback. We're not giving the principals I go in to when I was in public school, I would basically throw myself on the floor. I would be yelling at them, telling them what they needed to do. And I actually got the math program changed in the public school, but then I decided to go to private because there was a bunch of other things that I didn't agree with there, obviously. And I made the right choice because I see what's going on now, and definitely I'm so happy I chose Catholic school. Next slide. So now we're getting into a new thing. They're going to start teaching climate justice to your kids. Climate justice in every subject. In math, in English, in science, in gym. I'm not lying. There's schools that teach it in gym. Because how do you indoctrinate children into your ideology? You teach them something every year of school. That's how they do it. And if you're not asking your kids what they learned, and let me tell you, when I ask my kids, I grill them to what they learned in school. What'd you do in math? They have to say a sentence, what they did that day in each subject. Because you're not going to know these things are happening unless you drill your children. Next slide. And now we have a new Senate bill coming out. These are new, which eliminates local Board of Education control to determine what library materials are offered in the public school libraries. So it removes all accountability from the library media specialist. So the library media specialist is able to pick any weird sexual book she likes and sticks it in your library, and there's nothing you can do about it, and nobody you can appeal to. And these books are outrageous. If you would like to see them, they're on my phone. I'm glad I didn't bring them because I saw a child here, and let me tell you, it's not appropriate for children. I wouldn't even show it to my 19-year-old daughter, okay? There's genderqueer, and we have a list of these books. There's genderqueer, Let's Talk About It. I mean, I could go into what's in Let's Talk About It and how it's really a reflection of pornography culture. It's really not a reflection of actually what's going on with your body, but I'm not going to go into that. Next slide. We also have Assembly Bill 41020, which prohibits restricting access to books or other resources in public libraries and schools, authorizes withholding of state funding aid for noncompliance. So if you want to get this book out of your school, you can't. This is the new bill. Good luck. You're stuck with that sex weird book in your school. Next slide. So there's a mental health crisis in New Jersey right now. After the pandemic and everything, all the kids are squirrely, and it's an absolute sin that they have to function. And now we're telling them that they're whatever gender, and they're doing whatever thing, and they're all messed up. The kids are messed up. I'm telling you right now, your kids are messed up. Even if you think they're okay, they're messed up. They're all messed up. Violence has increased in the school. Girls questioning, becoming non-binary. You know, there was a 4,000% increase of non-binary students. This is neither male nor female in the New Jersey public schools between 2019 and 2023. I'm going to do it again for 2024 this year, but it's an outrageous increase that all these girls are changing their gender identity. Next slide. There's Senate Bill 1188 and Assembly Bill 2874, which permits minors 14 years of age, high school, starting in 8th grade actually, and older to consent to behavioral health services without parental notification. And guess what's happening in the schools? Next slide. Oh, I forgot. Go back. I wasn't there. They're going to fill it with medical psychological professionals in your public school. That's the next thing that's coming down the pike. What do you think is going to happen when your kid starts questioning their gender and they have psychological care and you're not there and you don't need to know your consent? This is all indoctrination over and over and over again. And so the next slide. Imagine what would happen if instead of teaching all this other nonsense, we started in the third grade, starting fetal development. We started teaching what happens at each stage of gestational age to babies. They're teaching masturbation in 3rd grade. Do you think they can't see fetal development? We put it in a way that they understand. When do the lungs develop in a human? When is the DNA different than the mother's? When do the nails grow on the fingernails? When can they hear? When do infants feel pain? What happens if we started this at 3rd grade in an appropriate way and every year did it until 12th grade? What do you think would happen? Do you think that would change a culture? Right? And then I think I have my last slide right here. So what you can do? I've said this, you have to communicate with your kids. You have to communicate with your teachers. Don't be afraid. Get right in their face. Your teachers, your principal, your superintendent, your Board of Education. They need to know you. They need to know what you're about because they will not go against you if they see you face to face. You have to go to your school board meeting. It would be even better if you ran. You have to know who to vote for, and we have this list every year on NewJerseyProject.org of all of the parental choice candidates that are more like-minded. And we keep that list every year of every county. And last year, we made change of 58% of the school boards in New Jersey. We got new people on that were against this stuff. And you can email me or you can contact me after this. Thank you very much.
You did an awesome job.